He found my petty little list, read every line, and smiled. I thought I was done finished, escorted out with a cardboard box because the man holding that paper was Leon Hunter, our brand new razor. Precise, doesn't blink in meetings, business partner. But that small smile cracked something I didn't know could crack. I was Tessa Morgan, the girl who liked color in her slides and jokes in her emails, and 2 days before it all started, I got the email. Nobody wants at 11. Internal transfer notification. Effective immediately, report to strategy on the 14th floor, under direct supervision of Mr. Hunter. The 14th was a different climate. Colder air glass walls that made you sit up straighter. Keyboards clicking in perfect sync, like they were being graded. My old floor had donut birthdays and plant cuttings. This one had silence, a coffee machine that brewed anxiety, and an etiquette you could feel in your bones. His welcome note hit my inbox before I set down my mug. Subject: presentation deck format standards. No hello, no warm handshake, just a template, a deadline, and the word precisely. He didn't raise his voice, he didn't need to. He would look at a slide, tap a margin with his pen, and say, inconsistent on page 3, then go quiet, and I would feel my personality leaving my deck like steam. By the third round of revisions, I was so tight I squeaked when I moved, so I did the most human thing I could think of on a bad Wednesday. I started a joke list in my purple floral notebook. The naughty list. Crimes against office, piece number 1, Leon No Smile Hunter. Aggravated perfectionism, suspected robot number 2. Coffee. Watery brown sadness, number 3. Susan from HR calling me Teresa twice in 1 week, number 4. This chair that squeaks like a trapped mouse. I drew a tiny pair of devil horns next to his name, because if I'm going to be dramatic, I'm going to commit. I folded it, slid it under the notebook cover, texted my best friend Nadia, meet me by the far booth. I've got contraband comedy, then started down the hall thinking about fries and freedom. I wasn't looking where I was going. I walked straight into a wall of charcoal soot and cedar cologne. My notebook flipped, papers fluttered, and the list fanned out across the tile like a confession letter. He bent first, of course he did. Efficient even in disaster, lifted the page, read it slowly, line by line, eyes moving with that clinical calm. I couldn't breathe. I was already imagining security badges and the email that starts with effective today, because that is how this usually goes, right? He looked up, the corner of his mouth did a thing I had not seen it do, and he handed the paper back as if returning a birthday card. I'm glad I made it to your list, he said. Light as air and as number 1, no less. Then he walked away. Yeah, that happened. For the rest of the day, I waited for thunder. Nothing came. He passed my desk at 3:17, asked for updated projections, voice, steady eyes, neutral like hallways don't exist. The next morning, he stopped, glanced at the comparison chart I'd rebuilt from scratch at midnight and said, "This reads better. Good work." The intern across from me dropped his pen. I didn't know what to do with the heat in my face, the weird untangling inside my chest. Something had shifted, not in the rules exactly, but in the oxygen, and once you notice a crack in ice, you can't unsee the water. It happened in crumbs, not fireworks. In a team meeting, he called on me not to corner me, but to hear me walk me through your idea, Reed. No edge, just curiosity. Later that week, he leaned over my shoulder while I explained churn like a leaky bucket to a junior analyst, and he said almost soft, "Nice analogy." I pretended not to glow. He sent a 10:04 a.m. email, no subject fluff, just a line. There's a jazz showcase downtown on Friday. You might enjoy it. I had never told him that I fall asleep to Miles when it storms. The rumor mill said he didn't have a personal life. Maybe rumor never looked. Then an invitation landed in my inbox, like a Dare leadership retreat lakeside, 2 nights listed under key contributors, which is corporate for we're watching you. At the welcome dinner under Edison bulbs and wood beams, I almost didn't recognize him without a tie. He saw me cross the room and said my name like he'd practiced not rushing it. I teased him about leaving his spreadsheet at the cabin. He smirked, said he locked it up on purpose. I said that was reckless. He said he could be reckless for one evening, and I think my stomach did an actual somersault. We got seated side by accident or fate. I stopped trying to tell the difference. We talked about books, about how fiction reminds you that you have skin under the armor, and he said, half to the glass, half to the firelight. I read, when I need to remember I'm a person, not a machine, and something in me moved. Later I slipped away to the dock, the lake flat and silver, the trees whispering. He found me there, not crowding, just close enough, and we laughed about dodging small talk and Q4 forecasts. When I reached to tuck a piece of hair, his hand lifted at the same time we both paused. Consent is its own language, you know what I mean. He leaned in slowly, the way people do when the answer matters, and when I didn't step back, he kissed me. Not fireworks, not a movie score, just intention. It felt like stepping into warm light after a long hallway. Back at the office, we were careful. No sticky notes with hearts, no clumsy jokes near open doors, just a rhythm. My coffee began showing up right when I needed it. Oat milk, no foam, no note. He'd send a late link to a trombone solo. I'd send a drummer covered in paint, our secret handshake for still human. And then the stakes arrived like a drum roll, the biggest launch of the year, the room full of executives who looked like they ironed their questions. And Leon said, calm and clear, Tessa will lead the strategy presentation. The air went thin. Preparing with him was not easy. He pressed every assumption until it either broke or held, but it didn't feel like he was trying to catch me. It felt like he was betting on me, and that difference, God, it changes your spine. The night before, I found him reading a beat-up novel instead of a spreadsheet, and he looked up and asked, "Ready?" And I said, "I'm scared because I care." And he nodded, like that was the exact answer he'd hoped for. The presentation felt like walking a high wire without looking down. I told the story clean, numbers tight, no fluff, no panic. The CFO challenged the workflow reversal. I explained why you respect a client's budget first, or you tax their trust, then showed the model that proved it, and the room changed temperature. When it ended, the CEO said, "Impressive, the kind of word that lands like a stamp," and I finally took a breath. Leon didn't say a thing, he just looked at me with this quiet pride that made the whole 2 weeks of grind suddenly make sense. That afternoon, a small matte black box sat on my desk with a red ribbon. No tag. In it was a leather notebook, rich and soft, and on the first page in neat serif handwriting, a single line, "Number 1 on your naughty list. Number 1 cheering for you." LH, I laughed. I cried a little. Yeah, I did both. Then I walked straight into his office, closed the glass door behind me, set the notebook on his desk, and kissed him, because sometimes you don't wait for permission to celebrate the work and the person who helped you rise. When we came up for air, I said, "About time," and he said, "Definitely overdue." Then he added, "Boundaries. We set them, we keep them," and we did. We told HR we rerouted reviews so he wouldn't touch mine. We kept our distance in rooms that turned people into rumors, and we chose private without choosing secret. People noticed anyway. Not the kissing, the ease. I spoke without shrinking. He listened without armor. Nadia hugged me in the lobby and whispered, "You sound like yourself again." And I said, "I finally feel like myself again." The list that almost got me fired became a running joke and a kind of journal. Volume 2 didn't have devil horns. It had a small star because the truth is, the list was never really about him. It was about me writing my way back to brave. the ending. Look, some of you will say the power dynamics make it messy, and you're not wrong to ask the question. Others will say life is complicated, and grown adults can be ethical and in love in the same building, and you're not wrong either. Here is my truth. The day I walked into that bright room and delivered a plan I believed in, I chose myself. The day I walked into his office with the leather notebook and didn't apologize for joy, I chose myself again. Maybe we last. Maybe we don't. But the work we did, the standards that once felt like a straitjacket turning into scaffolding, the way a feared boss turned into a person who reads to stay human, that part changed me. And if you've ever survived a cold floor by writing jokes in the margins, you know exactly what I mean. Now it's your turn. Would you have kept the job and the relationship, or drawn a hard line and walked away? Is perfectionism leadership or control when it lands on your desk? Have you ever made a petty list just to get through the week? Drop your take in the comments. Tell me where you draw the boundary. And if this hit home, share it with the one friend who needs a little courage today.